Good to see you this morning.
Good morning. No, great to be here.
Right, I'm going to start with immigration because that's the subject
Yeah.
that keeps cropping up of those who are considering vote leave. We've had a number of questions on it this morning. And the fact remains that you promised the people of Britain, when you were trying to convince them to vote for you to be in government, you promised to get the numbers under 100,000 into tens of thousands. That didn't happen. And as Jeannie says, if we can control immigration within the EU, why didn't we do it?
Well, look, immigration is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. It's made more of a challenge by the fact our economy has been growing and we've been successful and people have come to work here. But I think wrong answer...
We have to have a bad economy
I think the wrong answer, I think wrecking our economy by coming out of the European single market and hitting business and jobs in our economy, that would be a terrible way of trying to deal with this issue. A better way, and what I've negotiated in Europe, is that when people come and work here, if they can't find a job, they have to go home. They don't get unemployment benefit while they're here. And if they get a job, they have to work for 4 years before they get full access to our welfare system. That, I think, is a better change to make than what the Leave campaign say, which is leave the single market, which I think would really cost a lot of jobs. And today you've got the heads of all the biggest service industries coming out, banks and insurance companies and other, where 80% of people in our country work, saying that we would definitely lose jobs if we were to leave.
But what we see and what our viewers are saying to us, along the line of Jeannie and Tracy Maskew says, if I vote to stay, will you do something about immigration, or are the levels going to stay the same while our services buckle from the added numbers? So our economy is booming, more people are coming into the country, so our NHS, our schools, everything is suffering and buckling under that weight of immigration. That's what her concern is.
Again, I'd say to her that if we come out of the single market and damage our economy, we'll be less able to have a strong health service and strong schools. But look, half of immigration comes from outside the European Union. That is under...
We have money to spend on the NHS if we weren't spending the millions and millions that we have to be part of Europe.
Let's nail that myth, because if we come out of the European Union and we have a smaller economy and fewer jobs, we'll have less money to spend on public services. According to the Treasury research, £36 billion less. Look, half of immigration comes from outside the EU. We need to do better at controlling that. Inside the EU, we're not going to pay full benefits to people in work for 4 years. That will have an impact. And also, let's recognise that being in the single market is crucial for our economy. The heads of these service industries today, there are 34,000 people working in insurance, and they're saying very clearly these jobs would be at risk. And they would be at risk because if you're out of the single market, you then have to establish yourself in another European country to sell your services. And so by definition, that means that jobs would move from our country to the European Union, which we had just left. Okay. And I think that's 80% of our economy is services. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do.
We know you're convinced that the economy were better by staying in. The problem is other people aren't convinced that that still solves their worries over immigration. There was a poll yesterday which said even those who believe you're right over the economy say it's too big a price to pay to have to continue to deal with immigration. You still haven't answered how we will deal with it if we stay in.
Well, I am answering it. Now, let me give you some answers. So, first of all, for people outside the European Union, we've closed down bogus colleges, and we'll do more of that. We have a cap on the number...
So why didn't we get the numbers under 100,000?
You keep asking me a question and then literally not giving me a chance to answer. So, close down the bogus colleges, put a cap on the number of economic migrants from outside the European Union, return people faster when they're illegal immigrants, when you need to have a cooperation between countries to do that, and inside the EU, don't pay people full benefits until they've paid into the system for 4 years. We don't have that now. Today, people can arrive here and get £10,000 of benefits on top of their job. I'm saying we're going to take that away. That's what I negotiated, taking away benefits from European Union citizens who come and work here. That hasn't happened before. It was a very tough negotiation, and that's what I achieved.
One of the things that's been interesting to watch from the outside is how this referendum campaign is playing out, and members of your own party on each side of the divide. There's been some quite vicious attacks on both sides. You being disparaging about some of the comments that Boris Johnson has made, Boris Johnson being disparaging about your pledges on immigration, of course. How are you going to heal that rift, whatever happens, whether we stay in or whether we leave? And how are you going to try and reunite your party so we can then believe that the Conservatives and the party that is in government is the party that we can trust?
Well, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we had the Queen's speech, and we set out a whole set of measures to improve standards in our schools, to reform our prisons, to reform the way the police work, to make sure we keep going with the growing economy and we create apprenticeships. And
but it's more that all of those relationships, though, Prime Minister, between your members of your cabinet.
But that I think will be fine, because there's a shared agenda of giving people better life chances in our country, whatever their background. So you don't buy that the Conservative Party are tearing themselves apart, which is a lot of commentators are saying. Of course, it is a very vigorous debate, and I'm not surprised by that for a moment. It raises very high passions. But I think we're a grown-up enough democracy that we can have this passionate debate where the public, the people, will decide, not the politicians, and then we accept the result, we accept the instructions of the public, and we come back together again and form what I want to be, a radical reforming government with a growing economy, and all that can lead to. And I think that can happen.